And we're live. Welcome to Gold Standard with me, Troy Francis, and I'm joined today once again by Mr. Corey Capella, a god amongst men. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Troy, what's going on? Thanks for having me back.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Looking forward to cracking into this one. So, just a couple of parish notices before we start. Obviously, if you haven't already and you want to read my writings on dating, game, the sexual marketplace, do grab my book bundle, which is called Renegade Dating Blueprint. You can get it on the link below. Also, do please give us a like as we're doing this stream, and just to help us spread the word, get more people on board. And do hit subscribe and notifications to my channel as well as Corey's channel as well, of course, which he'll give you the details of in a moment, because we're all about caring and sharing here, and we want to get this message out as far and wide as we can. So, Corey, do you want to tell the guys where they can find you just to kick things off?
Yeah, hey, gents, I'm on a crusade right now. I'm going to be publishing my second book here in a couple months or so. Lots of new updates coming out. So first and foremost, I would highly recommend that you go over to my Instagram at Corey Capella. You'll probably be able to see my name there on the bottom, COREYCAPELLA. And in order to get the message out even further, my YouTube channel, A God Amongst Men, that you can see on the screen right there. So do go over to my YouTube channel. I'll even post up auto subscribe in the chat if you don't mind.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Good stuff. Okay, so let's crack into the meat and drink of today's show, which is going to be basically about ayahuasca, Iboga, and the psychoactive experience in general. Now, how this came about was when Corey was on the show last time, we were talking sort of more generally about some of the typical sort of red pill manosphere type issues, and we got onto the subject a little bit of psychoactives. And I'll be completely upfront, it's something I haven't done. It's something I kind of know people who've done it. I've heard varied experiences about it. I've seen quite a lot of, like documentaries about it and read about it. But it's something that just really fascinates me from a number of different angles. So I was really keen to just get Corey back on to have a chat about it and to talk about his experiences with this stuff. Because I think I'm correct in saying you've obviously experienced these things, and you've got a lot that you can tell us about the subject. Yeah.
I could say that I'm quite well versed with numerous different types, and I've had numerous different types of journeys as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of angles that I'm interested in this from. One of them, I mean, obviously, just in general, what the experience is like and what it brings to you, because it sounds like the effects of these things are just potentially sound extraordinary. And
profound.
I know they're
profound
exactly,
is the word. Yeah,
exactly. And I know there's a lot of people out there, serious, well-regarded people out there who are arguing that psychoactives, this shouldn't be demonized. This isn't a drug. This is a much more profound thing, and I totally get that. The other thing that interests me, as you know, is the sort of addiction side of this, and of course, people will take ayahuasca and also I believe, and also Iboga as well, in order to break addictive cycles. So I'm really interested in it from that point of view as well, as somebody who has, had issues with addiction myself. And it's really, because I'll tell you, just up front, I'll just say the thing that's always scared me about it is to think, in a sense, on the one hand, I can sort of see how it would benefit me. But on the other hand, I would almost be a bit reticent, because I don't take any drugs now or do any or drink alcohol or anything. So I would almost be a little bit wary about taking something that is a mind-altering substance, even though it's potentially beneficial. But we can get into that. But
so let me ask you another question then too. What else is stopping you? So what is the fear that's wrapped around you exploring this stuff?
Well, for myself, I mean, I think it'll be a bit of a big leap, because I haven't taken, as I say, I haven't taken any sort of narcotic sort of mood-altering substance for quite a long time. And I have done things like, I mean, I've done LSD. I used to do quite a lot of LSD, and I used to do, obviously, smoke marijuana, but let's say LSD. I've had a number of trips on that, a few of which in the early days were good, but then later they were pretty bad, pretty incredibly bad, to the point where I had to stop. I had to stop taking it. So I suppose, knowing where my head can go in that kind of experience, I just sort of think, God, if I did something like ayahuasca, I would just, like what the hell, So I think that's where the reticence is coming from.
For sure. Is there anything else that's holding you back? So, number one, you're saying the loss of control is one thing, which I completely agree with 100%. Like losing yourself and going down a rabbit hole that you can't really control. That's always very, very scary. Number two is actually, let's hop right into it. Fuck it. Because something popped up there that I wanted to discuss. Not all psychedelics are created equal.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I talk about this. The pyramid, I believe, is one of the greatest shapes. I think it's actually, you could look at it as a prism in a way, but I think that's one of the ways that the universe is created is through a pyramid.
Yeah.
And you could see it because everything is based on a hierarchy. Everything is based on a hierarchy. So what does that mean? Well, it's an important shape. It's an important tool. It's an important symbol because as energy increases, right, you can only have so much of a frequency at that high level. So things like marijuana, for instance, that's a very base level psychedelic. Now, I don't know if you know this. So cannabis, believe it or not, was never really, well, I shouldn't say it wasn't intended to be smoked, but the greatest tool that you could use that for is actually ingesting it.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever had an edible before, like a high dose of edible. Oh my God. That's a gnarly fucking high. Like I was taking 500 milligrams a day for quite some time. And I was having some insane spiritual fucking hallucinations. That's where the majority of, believe it or not, that's where the majority of my knowledge was gained, but it was all base level. And then I progressed up to mushrooms. So, I would say, cocaine probably goes between marijuana and mushrooms. And then it goes mushrooms, then it goes LSD, then it goes like peyote, and then you're going into ayahuasca and then into Iboga.
Would you put cocaine in the same sort of hierarchy then?
Yeah, any substance that you use is going to break the veil of this density.
Yeah.
All right, because it's all so. If you look at us on the level of being, now this is getting pretty fucking spiritual and crazy, but if you look at us on a level of being biocomputers, like our human body is like a biocomputer.
Yeah.
Right. And we are an avatar or a conduit by which a spirit enters and holds on to this kind of energy. Right. That's our energy. Look at any type of substance as a form of like a software.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm a biocomputer, right, I don't know computers that well, but either way, what it comes down to, and you'll see this when you go and use these psychedelics, there are different forms of software that interact with your hardware in order to tap you into different lessons, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like this, like there's so many different frequencies on this planet that most people don't recognize and understand. Like a bee, for instance, a bee operates in a wavelength where they only see different types of energies. We would never be able to visibly see on that spectrum. Right. So when you take these different things, it's like you ever see those lenses where you can put like a yellow lens, a red lens, a blue lens. You know what I'm saying? Like you put them over your eyes and you could alter it. That's all these substances are doing. Okay. But then it's also adding different filters in for you to get different levels of knowledge.
Yeah.
So for instance, like when you were using LSD, your first few experiences were great. Why? Because essentially what's happening is this: you're taking in this software in order to open up these feelers for you to be able to feel these frequencies and vibrations and kind of learn from it, right? When people start having really like numerous bad trips, so to speak, over and over, what that is saying is it's like if you were to try to continue to like download Microsoft Word on your computer over and over and over again, it's going to keep spitting up an error and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? And that's essentially what it's saying is like, hey, you've already gotten the lessons. You've already got the software downloaded. Like, fucking stop. But the thing that most people don't understand is there's a disassociative aspect to it, because in order for you to learn the lessons, you have to disassociate from your kind of like physical grounding. You feel me? So that's where the addictive part comes from. These substances is the disassociative aspect of it. And that's why people tend to go back and back. And these can be holes. There's a reason why the majority of these things were used as initiatory rites before for different societies, right? Because they realized that you could learn knowledge from it. But then there's also, I talk about this quite a bit, a barrier to entry. Okay. Are you and do you have strong enough of a character to recognize when you're going too deep, when you're using this as a means for you to feel something external rather than learn, right? It's just like with religion and stuff like that too, right? Religion was never meant for worship, I don't believe, right? It was supposed to be like a guidance, a passed down, like a passed down mentorship. It was never supposed to turn into like, hey, you think for me and you give me the fucking codes over and over while I can just go over here and just be a fucking schmuck for 6 days out of the week and then show up for 1 hour, listen to you, and then feel like I'm fucking enlightened again. And then boom, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what we as humans have a tendency to do. We end up taking the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting. So I was reading something about Iboga before we came on, and it was saying people were likening it to a near-death experience. So they were sort of almost saying it was like there was almost like a mini death with it, which is kind of interesting when you're talking about initiatory rites, because it's almost like this idea of, you know, how in story structure, you know, the Joseph Campbell thing, and it's always like the hero has to go to almost a place of death before being
he has to go into the abyss. He has to get eaten by a whale.
Is it sort of is there something in that? Is it similar to that? What you experienced?
100%. 100%. Here's what I'll tell you though. When I was eating cannabis, I was having mini deaths. I was having a lot. It was chipping my ego, and for quite some time actually. And this is where I did a video on my channel just recently about killing the ego and how it's a myth. Cannabis tried to kill my ego. That's what we were trying to do. I was no longer trying to be Corey Capella any longer. I hated Corey Capella, and cannabis and I were like fucking destroying my ego. And I realized once I got to that level how much more depressed I was getting, because it was like, you can't do that. You can't kill and destroy your ego. Chipping it down and making your ego work for you instead of you working for it is the key. Now, when you get to some of these higher level psychedelics, so like you'll have some ego deaths with like mushrooms and LSD. I call mushrooms like the mushies, right? And that's because fungi are very mushy, right? Like in not just in like characteristic physically, but also in like how their energy is, if that makes sense. Right. It's like they grow as spores together and they all work with the mycelium in order to be like one cohesive unit. Right? It's like one brain. It's like one team, one fight, because they don't have a lot of defense mechanisms. So when you take mushrooms, all of a sudden the veil of your individuality dies down and you start to see the world as all one. Okay. Right? Which is a fucking misnomer. It's good, you know, for people that are fucking highly like narcissistic and sociopathic and all this other stuff that are so detached. That's a good balancing tool for them to use, right? But for the mass majority of people in the world today that are already programmed into some bullshit like that with this whole globalist agenda and all this other shit, not a very good thing. Why? Because it reinforces their echo chamber. They're ending up being like, oh, we're all one, so, you know, no violence and we shouldn't be fighting against each other and all this other shit. And it's like, no, that's not true, right? Like, you're not tapping into true spirituality. Why? Why are you not tapping into true spirituality? Well, although we could all be one because we come from one specific source, there's a reason why there's a hierarchy in all these laws in our civilization, right? If you look at energy, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Those two reactions don't get along well, right? The lion eats the gazelle. Yeah. You can't sit there and say to the lion, oh, we're all one, so don't eat the gazelle. It's like, no. Like, that's not the laws of nature, right? So anyway, getting back into it, your question was about ayahuasca and like these mini deaths. First and foremost, when you drink ayahuasca, you fucking, I shouldn't say literally die, but you die. Yeah. You die. And Iboga, I guess essentially is the same thing, but I'm going to differentiate between the two. Ayahuasca, you feel like you die. Like you're like, I remember my first
physically
ceremony.
or
All right. So if you guys haven't seen the documentary, The Spirit Molecule on DMT, it goes over a lot of ayahuasca. I wrote about this a bit in my second book too. That should be coming out here soon.
Yeah.
Dimethyltryptamine is supposedly, well, first and foremost, it occurs naturally in the body.
Okay.
It's rumored that the brain releases the most amount of dimethyltryptamine. Like you release it when you sleep at night, which there's some in the spiritual world kind of shows that your soul may leave the body and travel to a place in your sleep in order for you to learn and heal.
Yeah.
Now, the two highest doses are when you're first born and when you die.
Wow.
So what does that correlate to? Well, that correlates to experiences. Well, what I'm guessing is this. That is the molecule by which our soul enters into the body and by which the soul leaves the body, so that you're able to leave and go interact with the spirit worlds, the different realities, the different dimensions. So when I first drank ayahuasca, it took about 45 minutes, but slowly you like rock into like a sleep. And the next thing you know, you're waking up, but you're not waking up in your body. You're just a spirit. You're just energy. You're just your consciousness. That's the best way to say it. You are no longer in a physical body. You are someplace, somewhere else. You could feel everything around you. You could hear, you could see, so to speak, right? And you're not in your body.
Okay.
That's profound though. Because think about it. What's the biggest question most people have? Why are most people so scared of death?
Because they don't know what's going to happen after their body dies.
Correct. But if you can understand and realize that your soul, your energy is timeless and fucking density-less and all this other stuff, and that like the same voice that's going on in your head right now is the same voice that you fucking still talk to and still interact with when you're dead. That is profound. That the biggest thing that's shaping this culture today is people are so afraid and fearful of death that they are willing to sell their soul to these power companies, right? To these monolith corporations and all this other stuff, because they're just like, make me feel comfortable, make me feel comfortable, make me feel comfortable. But back in the day, we used to have these rites of passage specifically for men. Why men? Well, because men are our warrior class. Right. And I talk about this all, like I said, again, in my new book, where you got to understand the difference in ages by which people need to have these kind of profound experiences occur in their life. But why do men need to be initiated into manhood? Right. Well, it's because what they need to do is they need to come to terms with, number one, they need to kill the boy. The boy is a believer that I'm supposed to be comfortable. It's this attachment to mommy who's there to nurture and make them feel like everything's okay and that they're safe. But that's not reality. Reality is fucking life and death. If you are not tapped into that fucking cycle of life and you're not okay with it, you are an easily controlled individual. You don't have control over yourself, because what you're essentially doing is you're running away from death your entire life. And that's what I could say about the majority of the world's leaders today. That's what I could say about the large majority of men in general. Is that they're you can't call them men, you have to call them males, because they haven't had their initiatory rites yet of killing off that aspect of the boy, of like, I understand death. I understand death as a friend rather than a foe.
Yeah.
Right. And
so
I understand what happened.
Is it this idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable? Because the greatest, most powerful people on earth are the people that can withstand the most discomfort, aren't they? And still go on to thrive anyway.
I would say so. That's something that you're going to learn afterwards as a lesson from that. The thing is this, and it's kind of like where you're at right now. You're like, man, Corey, I don't know if I could ever do that. And it's why? Because it's this fear of this unknown. You see the abyss, you see the dark cave. Yeah. Right. You wandering into the dark cave and you're like, man, there's a 50-50. I'm not walking out of that motherfucker. Right. Or I'm not walking out. There's a large percentage that I'm not walking out of there the same person or the same. Right. Like, I'm going to get maimed. I'm going to have scars. I'm going to have a broken bone. It's like, that's what's going on in your mind when you're sitting there thinking about this stuff. But it's worse. Why is it worse? Like physical, most men are like, okay, we could take some physical stuff. But now you're talking not just mentally, you're talking about consciousness. I could legitimately fucking lose myself and not come back. And that's like fucking thinking about getting sucked into a black hole. It's unfathomable. And it's like, do I do this or not? Do I fucking roll the dice with my own consciousness? Think about how profound that shit is, man. You know what I'm saying? And for me, sure, did I have some trepidation going into this stuff? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I had some things stacked up against me that were like, okay, would I prefer rolling the dice or would I prefer to stay where I'm at right now? And it's like, fucking, let's roll the dice. Let's go. Like you can't, in my mind, I was like, you can't get any worse in the situation I'm in right now. So
So on that note, so how did you first get into using these things? How did it come about in terms of your own biography?
Ooh, well, I was raised in a very abusive household, and most people would sit there and be like, oh, you know, that wasn't abusive. It's like, no. I was raised in a very, very toxic environment. My mom, my dad, and my sister all had a codependent relationship. I was the black sheep. I was the scapegoat for everything. My dad would come home from a day of work and find a reason to fucking beat my ass for no reason. Like really no reason. My dad was a boy. He had two or three temperatures. It was, and you never knew what it was going to be. It was, is he going to come home fucking pissed off and then fucking dump all his rage out on me? Or is he going to be the type of person that just goes into reclusion and doesn't talk to anybody? Or is he going to be the type of person that tries to talk to you a little bit, but is so socially awkward that like it doesn't hit? And usually it was the majority of the other two. It was either go into reclusion and avoid everybody, or come home in a spat of rage and take it out on me. Right.
Yeah.
Now he would never take it out on my mom and my sister. He would take it out on my mom in different ways. And, you know, I'm not going to try to paint my mom as a perfect angel whatsoever. Like she had a choice and all this stuff. She chose to get involved with this man and stay with him to this day. But he was just brutal. Like if the chicken was a little dry, you fucking stupid moron. What the fuck is this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're so like right in front of us. And then my sister, who was 10 and a half months younger than me though, she was the perfect little angel, could get away. And like, literally I would have chores for hours after school. Did you rake the yard? Did you do all this stuff? XYZ. Did you get your homework done? Everything was inspected. And my sister was just, hey, go do whatever you want. Like go get in trouble. Go fucking, you know what I'm saying? So severe double standards.
And that always makes it 100 times worse, doesn't it? When the other kid is like given this special status and you're not. I had something similar myself actually when I was.
That really fucks with you. Yeah. And what it did too is from a blue pill perspective, that's what my dad ingrained into me was the blue pill. You know, as long as my dad wasn't hitting my mother, he was still a honorable man. And the way that he treated my sister was how an honorable blue pill man does, right? Oh, no standards, no boundaries, no nothing, propping her up as the greatest, right? That's what blue pill men do is they pedestalize. Yeah, and there's even a Oedipus kind of aspect to it, right? Like being so kind to a woman who he feels would give him his undying love and affection because he just pours so many resources and love into her. And the reality is it turned my sister into a fucking spiteful, awful human being, right? My sister's probably one of the worst creatures on the planet. I don't talk to them. Right, so that's kind of like how I was raised. So then 2003, I'm a senior in high school. And 2001, I watched the towers fall, 9/11, junior, and I'm wanting to go to, I'm in Connecticut, by the way, and I'm like an hour away from New York City. I'm like, man, I should go and help pull people out of the rubble and all this other stuff. And I was so scared to do so because my dad would kick my ass, right? Yeah. So 2003 rolls around, we're invading Iraq and I'm graduating. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really want to be a cop, but I want to get jacked, right? And like fucking get paid to work out kind of deal, right? And I want some fun and some adventure because that's the type of person I am. I'm like, man, I don't really want to go to school. They're like telling me I need to go get a degree in criminal justice. I go up to one cop. I'm like, all right, so I get my degree in criminal justice. When do I become a cop after that? They're like, oh no, you have to go through a full training academy, all this other stuff. And then you have to get a polygraph test. And if you smoked weed even one time, you're never going to make it. And I was like, oh, well, I'm fucked. So I'm like, why the fuck would I go to school, spend $80,000 of money I don't have to go fuck around, get drunk all the time, probably fail out of school and get in trouble, and then try to go get this fucking job? I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like I said, we invaded Iraq. I was like, all right, I really only got one option. Started looking at the military. I was like, all right, that's the direction I need to go. Anyway, end up joining the United States Marine Corps in 2003. Don't ship off to boot camp till 2004. Iraq, Afghanistan, all that good stuff. Combat, XYZ. 9 years of military service. Get out after saving up $275,000 while I was in. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to own my own kingdom. At that point in time, I was a huge level CrossFitter, like big time competitor and all this other stuff. So I take out most of my money and I own my own gym, build my own gym. I'm like fucking super happy. I don't have a boss anymore and all this other stuff. And then I quickly find out how it is to be self-employed, running your own small business in the state of California.
Right. Yeah.
80, 90 hours a week. I have no boundaries because I'm still blue pilled at this time. So I'm trying to be super nice to all of my fucking, clients and all this other stuff. People are just walking all over me. People are fucking stealing things from me, XYZ, right? Not even realizing it. I'm just like, oh, well, I can't be the Marine to these people. So all this other stuff. Long story short, oh shit, I forgot to mention the SSRI. So before I got out, I started to have already some symptoms of depression. Yeah. Right. And this was like coming down hard because my adrenals were just so fucked from fighting in Afghanistan. So anyway, get on some SSRIs, small dose of Cymbalta 6 months before I get out. Transfer over to the VA, which is the healthcare system for veterans here in the United States, which is a shit show, by the way. It's the fucking premier model for socialized medicine. It's awful. I'm sitting there, I'm getting worn down, and the SSRIs aren't working. I don't want to take more. The VA is telling me that they're not going to wean me off because I'm trying to get off. I don't want to be on these things for the rest of my life. They're telling me I got to be on them for the rest of my life. I have an adverse reaction to that kind of mindset. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to figure out a way to naturally heal this. Yeah. So I heard some stories and started looking into cannabis, got my medical card for PTSD, started consuming and eating small doses, feeling better and better as I'm starting to wean off of my SSRIs. Wow. And I end up fucking just going off the deep end kind of deal. Yeah. Wow. The perfect cornucopia of events happen. It's very, very difficult for you to wean yourself off of SSRIs. They're fucking insane. Right. Then
including like Prozac, including like fluoxetine.
Oh my God, dude. That shit's, I'm telling you, any of these pharmaceuticals that people are being put on to mood alter and to fucking deal with their depression and anxiety, they've calculated this stuff. It's a means for you to be on it for the rest of your life because your brain gets addicted to those new neural pathways. And the second you withdraw those things, it's a severe reaction of withdrawal. Now, the only thing I know to help people out with that is Iboga.
Oh,
Iboga,
really? It's funny, isn't it? Because they always claimed that SSRIs weren't addictive, didn't they? But I think they are addictive in a way, though, aren't they? Maybe not in the same way as opiates, but there's definitely.
Well, it depends on what you consider and constitute as an addiction. Yeah. Right. Is it physically addicting? Like, okay. So people sit there and be like, oh, marijuana is not addicting, but cocaine is, because there's a difference between the two addictions. Yeah. Right. One's a behavioral addiction and the other is a physical dependency. Yeah. Right. Where your cells are like, literally fucking give me that shit right now. Yeah. So pharmaceutical companies can get away. They realize that when you take these SSRIs, it grooves a new fucking pathway in your brain in order for your neurotransmitters to be reuptaken. Right. They know that. They know that, but yet they still make you fucking take them. So that's what happens. And that's what a lot of these withdrawals are, is it's your neurochemistry and it's your neural pathways reacting, because now they're having to go back a different course and they don't have the strength to do so. Because it's like, well, you're feeding me it's like damming up a fucking bridge, or it's damming up a fucking waterway. And then, trying to get, like, once a dam is fucking broken or whatever, or like a hole is in the dam, it only flows so little. You feel me? Yeah. So it's like, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy environment with those things. I am not a fan whatsoever. I think for acute symptoms, people should be on them, but we need to have you need to have a triage kind of aspect for mental health. So for me, I did it myself personally. with my own money when I was homeless, right? Like all of this stuff was like all this stuff that I went and did was technically when I was homeless and I had little money, but I had to invest in myself and I had to invest in my own health because
was that after you had the gyms or was it before?
So I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Perfect cornucopia of events happened. Bad breakup, my choice though. But I was sitting there going through my own mind. I had just turned 30. I was having like a midlife crisis. Why is it that everyone else is getting married and I can never fucking enjoy a long-term relationship? Why am I always attracted to these broken people? All this other stuff. Why did I get taken advantage of with the gym? Why I'm working 90 fucking hours. My fucking body's broke. I'm working out 4 hours a day in order to become this like champion fucking CrossFitter, which was insane and terrible. I've come off of SSRIs at this point in time. And now, because of the cannabis, I'm dealing with the trauma from my past, right? Of my upbringing. All this stuff is coming up because it was buried for so long on top of the trauma from war. So this perfect cornucopia happened and I just break. I literally cannot wake up. I can't wake up, right? I can't get out of bed. I'm just like so fucking exhausted. And I just end up mentally snapping. Now I see the failure of my gym and all this other stuff because I'm the one that's fucking driving the ship. Right?
Yeah.
If I can't open the doors of my gym, this is money being fucking lost and I'm just hemorrhaging out shit. So, right? And I end up hospitalizing myself for a couple days, getting about 4 days of fucking rest. TLC. People on TLC been addicted to drinking laundry detergents and eating drywall. Exactly. Here's what it comes down to. Here's what addictions really are. Again, going back to it, not being initiated into manhood is one. The other thing though is this. It's we all have traumas somehow, some way locked into our body. Trauma is just a way that you interact with some type of situation that occurs that didn't go away, a way that you have. Now, the biggest problem is, especially with the way that we're raising our kids today, is we're not teaching people how to nurture themselves. And instead, we're dealing with a lot of abandonment issues because mom and dad now go to work and all this other stuff. And we're really not being nurtured into becoming adults in a way of like, hey, here's how you heal your own stuff. Instead, the way we heal things is by turning on the TV or eating a donut or smoking a cigarette or like alcohol. Alcohol is the worst fucking substance on the planet. Hands down, I'll say that. Like, it's very low density. It doesn't provide a lot of fucking upside. It is pure sugar, and it's the one of the few things in the world that when you consume it every single day, your liver has to create an enzyme in order to break down the alcohol. So that's why people can die when they have DTs, right? Because what's happening is if you go cold turkey, that enzyme's being produced, and it's something that's meant to deal with something that's highly toxic. So now it's going around and it's circulating in your blood and it's trying to find something to fucking break down, right? So it's not good for you. Anyway, that's me kind of rambling about some of this crazy shit. But I ended up, so the cannabis helped me open the doors to realize that there was something out there to heal all my stuff naturally, but it wasn't the right tool because like I said, if we're going to look at the pyramid of things, cannabis is still low level. It's a low level teacher. It's meant to kind of like open the door. So when people call cannabis a gateway drug, 100% a gateway drug. They're just using the term gateway in the wrong aspect. It's a beginner's level. It's a beginner's level initiation into understanding the spirit world and healing your trauma. Right. So then the next thing I did, never really using psychedelics in my life. After coming back from being in the hospital, of course, what did they do when I was in the hospital? They're like, here, you need to start taking your SSRIs again and all this other stuff. I was like, no. So they had me on some low-level dose of something else, and I was like, fuck. I felt like a failure because I didn't want to be on this shit again. So I was like, fuck it. I had a friend of mine at the point in time that he's like, he would hear me ramble about curing all this shit and helping veterans cure their PTSD and stuff. And he's like, dude, you need to listen to this podcast of Joe Rogan. I was like, fuck, Joe Rogan. I was like, fuck that guy. Like, I never liked Joe Rogan before that. I was like, that dude's coked out of his mind and he doesn't make any sense. He's like, no, you got to listen to his podcast. You got to listen to this podcast with Aubrey Marcus talking about ayahuasca. I was like, okay. So at that point in time too, I was also growing cannabis as a side business to try to make extra money. So that's another reason why I fucking collapsed, was I was doing way too much. Anyway. Yeah. So hear this podcast and I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need to go do. But I'm not going to do it until I make some extra money. Long story short, business is failing. The cannabis thing is failing too. And I was like, fuck it. I took my last $800 and booked a ticket down to Iquitos, Peru, with the hope to run into someone or something like that in order to go through an ayahuasca ceremony. There's actually a Marine who opened up his own retreat center down there, and that's where I was going to go. But as I landed and I talked to the honcho, the cab driver, I said, take me to this place. He turns and he looks at me and says, that place closed down 3 months ago. So anyway.
Really?
Oh yeah, man. So I'll tell you, like, this is too long of a story, but anyway, things turned out. I ended up linking up with some fucking amazing, amazing people. I don't know if you know who James Marshall is. Do you know who he is?
Oh, James Marshall is in Natural Lifestyles.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I ran into him. I ran into him down in fucking Iquitos, Peru.
Wow.
And him and this other dude, Marshall, James fucking gave me money in order for me to go through the ceremony, and I ended up paying him back right then and there through I pulled some money off of PayPal. Yeah, that's how I fucking met the dude.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I drank ayahuasca deep in the fucking Peruvian Amazon with James Marshall. Didn't know who he was. It was fucking epic. He's telling me all about what he does and all this other stuff. I was like, that's fucking crazy, dude.
He is a really cool guy. I mean, I've never met him. I know people that know him, but yeah, I mean, some of his content is great. I really
absolutely. I'd still say he's a bit purple pill, to be honest with you, if I was going to lump it up. But his approach style and the way he does stuff and the way he coaches men, I really truly believe is some good stuff.
No, I would agree. I mean, he is purple pill to some extent, but I like his sort of, I just like his vibe, you know, and I like his content. And I quite like his sort of focus on meditation and things like that.
He's a great dude. He's a great dude. Him and Shay Matthews, his sister was my shaman.
Really?
Shay Matthews. Yeah. So he's a real cool dude. I linked up with him afterwards. He actually contacted me. Really, really great dude. Both of them. And I actually look forward to being able to maybe go out and hang out with them and spit some content and talk about this stuff too. So yeah. Really great stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So I went down there and had my first ayahuasca experience. Now, let me go into two things real quick. Because a lot of people will be drawn to ayahuasca. Why? Well, ayahuasca is kind of the one that's like very famous right now. A lot of people are like, it's very psychedelic.
Yeah.
You see things, you go places. Let me kind of lump the two together right now, because the two greatest teachers that I've learned from thus far are ayahuasca and Iboga. But Iboga has been by far, hands down, my greatest teacher. Okay, when it comes to stuff. Iboga. And if I were going to recommend any one thing to men right now in today's world, Iboga is the rite of passage, the initiation that you want to go down. And I'll explain the difference between the two. Ayahuasca is feminine. Very, very, like the ultimate feminine. And it's a fucking roller coaster ride. The problem with today is men are still and already addicted to that roller coaster ride of the feminine. And when they go into it, and men already have way too much of a feminine energy. So why are you going to go and try to be initiated by the feminine? Now, the difference is this, right? Like, it's not much of a teacher. It's more of a shower. So you launch out of your body and you go and you get to explore and you get to realize, okay, cool. Like, this is what happens to the soul when you die, in a way. Like, I'm still in existence. I still interact with things. It's just not in the physical realm. You go and you see different dimensions.
This is ayahuasca.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the lessons you learn are all extrapolated through like dreams and like allegory in a way, right? So you'll see different things and you'll feel stuff and you'll have a connection to it, but then you're able to kind of sit there. It's still very ambiguous. It's like, what am I learning here? But the thing that you're really learning is like death, right? You're learning about death. That's really what it comes down to. And then after you come back is when like things will be cleansed and purged out of your system, so to speak. And like the bad things that are really not good for you will be removed, and it's violently removed. So it's like I came back from ayahuasca and I was like, okay, cool. I'm ready to take on the world. Everything's healed now. PTSD's healed. And then I get back and I lose my gym, and then I lose my home, and then I lose my cars, and I'm fucking homeless. It's like, and then I lose all my friends and I have no support, and I end up I end up dumping my family, so to speak, because they're not helping me. They're
yeah.
Go ahead.
And you think that's as a result of the ayahuasca experience, or some sort of like,
they call ayahuasca the mountain mover. The things that
Okay.
need to be changed in your life will fucking change.
Will be changed. Okay.
They will be purged from your life, plain and simple.
That's interesting because it starts off with the physical purging, doesn't it? So you're sick, you know, people are sick or they have diarrhea or whatever. But then the purging sort of extends out into your physical life as well, your external life.
And that's what you want it to. This is what people don't understand about the journey is the rite of passage is just the beginning of the journey. It's you walking through the door. But then you still got to keep following the path, right?
Yeah.
This journey called life doesn't end until it fucking ends, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people in today's world, they're like, oh, I just want to take this happy pill and then it's over. And I can just kind of sit here comfortably and like sit in happiness and bliss. And it's like, that's not what life is. That is not what life is. So for guys, ayahuasca, especially in today's world where a lot of people are already kind of zeroed out, like that's one of the worst things that for me, it was fine, but I still had to tackle a lot of demons when I came back. Like I still had thoughts of suicide. I still had anxiety and depression that I had to tackle. I had to go through like my dark night of the soul 3 months after ayahuasca, where I sat there contemplating killing myself. Absolutely. But I was reborn, so to speak, in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
After that, I did peyote. Peyote is like what I'd consider. So ayahuasca would be considered the mother. Peyote would be considered like the grandfather. So when I did peyote, it was very like earth-like, very grounding, very cellular, but I didn't walk away with anything too profound. So I still look at it as a great teacher. It's just, it wasn't anything like ayahuasca for sure. And then 2, now let's get into the last aspect of Iboga. Because this is the plant medicine that I recommend for all men to initiate with.
Yeah.
What was going on in my life? So now I was no longer technically homeless. I had a roof over my head. I was being housed by a nonprofit organization run by all women, and they were just all toxic women. They were fucking crazy maniacs, right?
Sure. Yeah,
and they're just doing it in order to fucking get their social clout for housing these fucking poor veterans and all this stuff. But they had no knowledge of mental health or anything like that. So I'm living in this chaotic world because of that. And I have anxiety and depression still. I'm battling this stuff. I just got into jujitsu, which was really helping me out, but it was still, the peaks and the lulls were just so crazy. I got into meditation, but still, even then with meditation, like things were starting to smooth out, but it was still too high and still too low. And I remember Aubrey Marcus talking about doing Iboga, and he said that was the craziest experience that he's ever gone through. And I was like, fuck. I was like, because I've gone through some crazy experiences up to this point with LSD, with mushrooms, with ketamine. I did another ayahuasca ceremony that was just like, it was fucking bad. I did it here in California with a bunch of hippies, and it was fucking terrible. And I had to go and like work with another spiritual healer in order to fucking heal all the shit that I fucking encountered with that stuff. So it's like, you got to really be like, you really got to vet who you go through with this stuff. So my first one down in Peru, perfect. My second one in fucking Joshua Tree, disaster. Although I worked through a lot of stuff there, but it was fucking brutal. I got my ass kicked by fucking ayahuasca at that point in time, and it was crazy. It was too weird. It was too weird.
What's that? Anyway, is that down to the people that are around you and the people that you go through the ceremony with?
And I would even say this, and this is a big lesson I learned from that, is there's a reason why, everything is a ritual, and these rituals are there for a reason. Like, you have to enter the space properly. That's why rituals are huge. Rituals are important. And this group of people, they decided to do away with the ritual. And instead, they were trying to make it this new age, happy-go-lucky kind of thing. And it's like, that's what's going on with the left today. The left is trying to turn reality into this fucking egalitarian happyville, where there's no, like, every instance and every interaction that we have should be pleasant. And it's like, you're drinking fucking ayahuasca, you idiot. Like, this is called the vine of death for a reason. Like, this isn't here for you to fucking play your drums and fucking sing Kumbaya. This is real deal shit that's pulling traumas out of you. And in order for you to fucking heal trauma, you kind of got to go through a bit of trauma yourself. You know what I'm saying? In order to tap back into that energy. So it's like, the real shamans realize and tie into it, there's a lot of like, especially when you're down in the rainforest, there's a lot of animal kind of stuff that comes up. And it's because like, especially like the leopard and the puma come up a lot with ayahuasca. And it's because that's a fucking vicious animal that will fucking shred you, right? Like people get attacked by fucking jaguar, not the leopard, jaguars. People get attacked by jaguars when they first drink, like visions. The jaguar comes in, like fucking claws you down. Like you're supposed to go through a fucking brutal death in order to tap into that stuff. But when you're sitting there and you're fucking playing drums and you're trying to fucking make this like a Led Zeppelin fucking acid trip, it's like, no, like, no, you're going to get your pee-pee smacked by the universe. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah.
So going back to it though, so I looked into Iboga, which was said to have, like you talked about, Iboga has the ability to cure addictions. So what did I talk about a little bit earlier? What are addictions? Well, addictions are just neural pathways and a groove in your brain where you've kind of carved out this kind of behavior pattern. Does it make sense? Yeah. So Iboga is shown to go deep into whatever that is and be able to like change the grooves in your brain and actually, no kidding, change neural pathways. It's why somebody who's going down there to use Iboga and go through the ceremony can go there with a fucking high level heroin addiction and come out clean 7 days later. It's like, it's that strong. It's that strong. But of course, there's going to be some work. Why is there going to be work? Well, usually when someone has a dependency that high, there's some kind of fucking emotional attachment to something, right? There's some kind of emotional scarring that also needs to be pulled up. And that's where the ass kicking comes up. So here's the difference between Iboga and ayahuasca. Iboga is like what I consider to be like, I fucking hate using the term divine. It's such a fucking feminized version. It's like the ultimate masculine mentor. It's like if you could picture the perfect dad, if you could picture the perfect dad that gives you the right amount of ass whooping, but also gives you like the morals behind it and teaches you lessons and gives you the answers to things in life, like the keys. That's what Iboga is. Ayahuasca is all about going external. Iboga is about going internal, right? One's an external locus of control. One's an internal locus of control. And when I took Iboga, to be honest with you, I was like fucking scared out of my mind because I had some really bad experiences. Kind of like what you're talking about. I'm like, fuck, I'm doing this again. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to get lost this time. Like I'm going to get lost. I'm not going to come back. And to be honest with you, my Iboga, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it wasn't difficult. Because every lesson that I've had to learn in my life up to this point in time has been like, I've had to get my fucking dick ground in the dirt. I've had to get body slammed and fucking just dragged through it. And that's how I learned. Yeah. Should one start off with Iboga or first do shrooms or I am of the belief that Iboga, just go do Iboga. Like there's no need to warm up. Pull the fucking trigger, go do it. And that's what I'm saying is like, for me, I was so scared. I was so scared to go down and do this. It was my last ditch effort. It was my last dollar as well. And I was like, fuck. But I'll tell you what, that's kind of what I asked for. I was like, I didn't say be gentle necessarily. My second go around, I was like, yo, be gentle. Cause I went down there twice. I went down there 3 years ago. And then I went down there about 6.5 months ago again, just to clean up some stuff. So the first one was to cure my PTSD, my anxiety, and my depression, which I can honestly say was cured. I worked through some stuff. The second go around was I was working, I cured everything and I kind of got back into society and started building and doing all sorts of stuff, going to school, becoming more and more successful. But then I started to realize my mindset around success and happiness and wealth and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, there's still something sabotaging me. I was like, I want to go down there and I want to cleanse this. So that's what the last one was. And
can you go in with that specific goal in mind? Can you go in and say, right, I want to, there's these issues. So I want to, so you go in with that mindset and you think, 100%. Right, I really want to.
So I went in with this. Yeah, absolutely. And you should even do that with ayahuasca, right? I went down there saying, I no longer want to be on SSRIs and I want to help veterans heal their PTSD. And I came back and I did all those things, but veterans don't want
Right.
help with their PTSD. So you got to appeal to a wider audience. Yeah. So I bought this journal like right before I went down to Iboga. And the first things that I said was, because the thing is this, the universe is all about exchange, right? You could, that's the thing. That's why I fucking hate prayer. Prayer is a weakness. Prayer is like, people are sitting there and it's like, hey, can I please have this XYZ? I'm a business person when it comes to the universe. I'm like, hey, these are the 3 things that I want. These are what I want. This is what I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
We good? Like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fair to do. Right? If I was created by the universe, I should have no fucking need to worship it. Instead, this is a I don't want to say a codependent relationship, but this is a mutually beneficial relationship. So it's like the 3 things I said receive. I want to say the 3 desired changes that I want. My relationship with money, abundance. My relationships with food. I was still dealing with a bit of a food addiction that I realized was kind of imbalanced. And then my relationships with success, wellness. I want to overcome guilt and shame from my past programming, fear of what others might think of me, lack of resourcefulness, and then fear of success, future unknown. And then I had some specific questions that I wanted answered. What should I invest my time and energy into? What is my brand, niche, product? What do I need to create in order for me to develop the network I require? And all of those things, either then and there in the ceremony. That's what I like. And that's the other thing that I like about Iboga. You can hear stories about this. You tap into something that is just unfucking real. Where you're asking the question, like the big ones, and you're automatically receiving the answers and the feedback from what I consider to be your higher self, like your perfect version of you. Or God, right? Who knows? But like, for instance, like the first ceremony that I went into, I ingested Iboga. We were hanging out there. We went through the fire ceremony, went and laid down. And then 45 minutes later, I see myself on a fucking operating table. And there's this fucking crazy alien standing above me, cool looking alien. And I see like this chart up on like this very futuristic type of chart. And I see it go through like a body scan. And then it shows like a red spot down on my hip, like my psoas. And I see it go in and just reach in and remove all the bad stuff out of my hip. I was like, whoa, that was fucking cool. About an hour later, all of a sudden I feel like a wave of emotion come up from that hip and it waves up to my mindset. And I'm like, that's shame. I could feel it. I'm like, that's shame. And then this voice comes in and goes, yeah, that's shame. I was like, holy shit. And the voice is like, yeah, crazy, huh? Do you remember what that's from? I was like, yeah, I can feel it. I can remember where this shame is coming from. It's from playing hockey and being shamed by my father for not doing good enough and all this other stuff and XYZ and like all this stuff, other junk that's trapped in there. And it's like, yeah, that's been there since you're 13. Why are you holding on to it still? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, well, do you need it? And I was like, no, I don't need it. It's like, then let's get rid of it. How's that sound? I was like, yeah, let's get rid of it. It's like, all right, cool. It's gone. I was like, fuck, really? Yes. How does that feel? It's good. Do you feel like moving on past this shit? Absolutely. Let's go. And it goes through the more and more of the ceremony. And then like 45 minutes later, I feel some more shit come up and there's shame. I'm like, that's shame or guilt. Right. So I went through guilt and shame. It's like, that's guilt. It's like, yeah, you got all this guilt from all this other stuff, from not being good enough and all this other shit when you're a kid and all this crap. It's like, how's that serving you right now? I'm like, well, it's not. It's like, why are you holding on to it? I was like, fuck, I don't know. It's like, can we get rid of it? Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of it. Cool. Awesome. Like this is fucking ultimate level healing shit, dude. I'm telling you guys. Like, and the pain in my hip ever since I came back, the pain that I've had in my hip my whole life, gone.
Wow.
Crazy.
So, and you think that was an actual physical manifestation of that feeling of shame that you were sort of holding on to?
I think what it did is it went in there and it broke it apart and it brought, so we have all these subconscious things, right? We have these mental reactions to things subconsciously that when things don't go our way, we register it as trauma. And we hold on to trauma in order for us to not repeat that behavioral pattern. But if you have too much trauma, it stops you from flourishing in life. So you aren't conscious of what you have. So what this does is it pulls things from the subconscious up to the conscious so that you are able to make a conscious decision to remove it. And that's powerful. That's fucking huge. All right.
Yeah.
If you want to curl up in a ball weeping and shitting, don't take ayahuasca. Spend an evening with my ex-girlfriend instead. That's hilarious. Everyone gets so scared about shitting their pants. I've never once purged. I've never once on any of my substances. I've never seen anyone shit themselves either.
Well, this guy, to be fair, this guy's playing devil's advocate a bit here with this. What would you say to what he's saying here? Because he's also said that he's known guys who've ended up committing suicide because of, you know, having done shrooms and LSD. So I guess that's the sort of counterpoint to all of this, isn't it? That is there a danger that some dudes can get pushed over the edge? Well, you know, how do you respond to that?
I did talk about a barrier of entry.
Mm.
Listen, guys, this is nature. I can't give you a pill that's going to guarantee you that you're going to survive and you're going to get all the benefits. This is being forged. That's why they call it an initiation, right? Yeah. There's going to be some people that walk in and they get stronger and they build. There's going to be some people that don't walk out. I hate to say it like that. I really do hate to say it, but that's just kind of the way it is. Okay. Yeah. If you have the metal, you know, like you could tell, like, you know, whether or not I do agree with the weed thing though. A lot of schizophrenics, there's a lot of things that are now being associated to schizophrenia and weed. I'm sober. I'm a sober person now. I've been sober for the last 2 years of my life. Right. The only thing I'll touch now is Iboga.
Okay.
That's the only thing I'll do. And it's because here's the thing. Even if you did a no, I don't want to do mushrooms again. Even if you did a heroic dose of mushrooms, you're not going to wake up the next day and be like, let's do mushrooms again. You're going to be like, fuck, I never want to do that again. It's the same thing with ayahuasca. And it's the same thing. It is so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable that you do not want to go back and do it again. I went back 2 years after my initial Iboga ceremony. And although I had a lot of healing from my Iboga ceremony, it's still so uncomfortable that you're just like, I don't ever want to do that again. Right? Yeah. Sometimes there's things in life where you're just like, I'm way too uncomfortable with this stuff. I would much rather go through that discomfort and have it healed than to continue down this road that I'm going down right now.
Yeah.
So if someone is truly addicted and they truly want to heal, absolutely. But then you still have the addict that wants to disassociate. And I think that's another energy that people bring into it, that, you know, maybe that's why they do pass away, is like, are you really looking to heal? Or are you just looking to get your next fix? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I definitely think
for you personally, I think if you were to do Iboga, I think you'd have some profound things happen. And I wouldn't be worried about you doing Iboga whatsoever. But if it was somebody who is still partying and I could see that they're not very disciplined and they're not really trying to thrive in life, it'd be like, I don't know, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is something that you have to go into with a mutual respect. If you don't go into it with a mutual respect, that's really when you're going to get fucking hammered.
Yeah. And obviously everyone has to look at this and make their own decisions on this. So it's not, this is no recommendation. We're just talking about experiences here. And
this is something that you're going to know. You're going to know. You're going to be like, man, I'm so fucking scared of that, but that would be fucking tremendous for me. That's when you should go. Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you one experience that I had on LSD though, which I always tell this story, and it's not the most profound story in the big scheme of these kinds of things, but basically I'd split with a girlfriend. I'd had a pretty traumatic sort of breakup with a girlfriend. This was deep in the middle of blue pill land, so I had no knowledge of the way all these dynamics work and all the rest of it. I just got dumped by this girl, and I was cut up about it basically. And I ended up going to a club, and I took LSD. I'd probably taken MDMA as well, but I certainly took LSD on top of it. And I went into this trip, and all I remember about the whole thing was, I think the trip was good, and then it kind of was bad. But I just remember having this moment of clarity when I could see the whole situation with this girl for what it was. And it was almost like there was this bigger voice than me saying, listen, it's a bit shit at the moment. You've just got to get back on your path. You've just got to work through this stuff.
Yeah.
Stop messing around. This will pass. And
focus on you. Yeah.
And it sorted my head out in a way that I hadn't been able to sort out before. Now that is not, guys, that's not a recommendation for LSD or anything else. But I could say, but do you think with something like ayahuasca or Iboga, do you think on a bigger, more complex scale, it's doing something similar? It's basically taking the constituent parts that are already there and sort of reorganizing it for you in a way that you just can't do with your.
So again, going LSD is a little bit of a higher version of mushrooms. That's going to tap you a little bit into more of the systems. It's why all these techie kinds of people can get away with microdosing LSD. It's because you're able to kind of start seeing the code. When you do ayahuasca and Iboga, you're breaking above the cloud layer of that.
Right. Okay.
Right. It's not just the code and the path. It's instead like, here's the journey. Right. Yeah. Here's everything. So ayahuasca introduces you to the expanse of the universe. Okay. Iboga introduces you to like your own fucking power. It's insane stuff, man. Like I'm telling you, like if you want answers to your life, like what should I do? How should I go about doing things? What do I need to do? Oh man, it's remarkable stuff. And especially the place that I went down to too, Iboga Wellness Center. God, that place was awesome. 8 days of just, it's crazy. It's during the ceremony, you're like, oh my God, fuck this. This is crazy. But then afterwards, you're just like, man, profound. I mean, that's the greatest word for it. It's just, cuts through all the bullshit. Yeah.
I think there is this thing about schizophrenia, isn't there? I guess. And again, I'm not qualified really to speak on this, but it certainly seems to be the case. You certainly hear some very bad stories about people who are clinically schizophrenic using even something like weed. It can be.
Weed and schizophrenia are along the same vibrational frequency. That's why a lot of that stuff happens. It's lower level. What you guys are kind of doing right now, though, is this. I think that. So you got to understand the law of the universe. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that's what I went into this with. So I have all this trauma. There needs to be something out there that can help me cure all this trauma, plain and simple, right? Schizophrenia, you guys are thinking that schizophrenia is something you're born with and you have to die with. I don't think so. I don't believe in that. I think that's just an imbalance. And then there's a tool out there that is an equal and opposite reaction that is going to be able to balance it back out. Obviously, when people are using things like alcohol and cannabis, not good, right? But I honestly believe, especially let's say if schizophrenia is a means by which your brain is grooved in order for you to experience reality, I think Iboga with the right shamans, you'd be able to heal it. That's what I think. I mean, is Iboga the exact substance? I don't know, but I think so with Iboga, right? It makes the most sense in this case. I wouldn't do ayahuasca. That's fucking crazy, right? Like that's insane. Whereas this is like, okay, Iboga is a real true healing mechanism. Like it's not like a show. It's not like a light dance. It's not like, I don't know. It's its own fucking beast. It's its own beast. That's the best.
There are unpleasant aspects to the Iboga trip.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Your stomach is a fucking mess. It like goes in waves. It's both of them go in waves, but this goes in more waves. The music that's being played during it is fucking insane. Like music you've never ever heard. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pull up some Bwiti initiation music, and you're listening that for fucking 12 hours straight. It's not comfortable, but at the same time, it's doable.
Yeah.
Very doable. Very doable.
Yeah. And do you think? I mean, would there be any way to access the kinds of states or the kinds of changes that you go through on these substances without doing the substances? I mean, is there sort of meditation or chanting or anything, or do you think that we need to use these plants in order to get there?
I think that there are people out there that can get away with not doing these things. Yeah. But I think the large majority of us need something along those lines. I mean, I'm a daily meditator, but I can tell you that I've never had any experience with meditation or anything like I've had with
anything like,
No, we are a chemical soup. We're all made up of fucking atoms and all this other shit. And then in order for everything to interact, we have these things called hormones, right? So everything is at a chemical level for reality to come into existence. There's nothing wrong with taking some other type of chemical to alter the chemical reaction in order by which you see reality. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the only thing that's wrong with it is when you become dependent on it, and that's what you start using as your filter to see life. These substances, for me, and with meditation, for far too long, I was trying to disassociate and not accept the terms of this reality. Now I'm probably the realest motherfucker alive because I love reality. I don't ever want to disassociate from reality unless I'm going through a spiritual whatever. And so, whatever. Yes, I've absolutely tried transformational breath work. Breath work is this. You're just hyperloading. You're going hypoxic. You're hyperloading your fucking blood system with oxygen. If you don't know, when someone's able to take in a high level of oxygen, you get high. All you're doing is you're just getting high, and it's short-lived, right? You're just rushing a lot into it, and that's all that's going on. You're going to feel clear. You're going to feel great. You're going to have a surge in fucking dopamine and serotonin, right? Everything's going to feel great, but it's short-lived. It's a Band-Aid. That's why you fucking meet a lot of these fucking breathwork people, and they're like, "Oh my God, breathwork. Oh my God, breathwork." It's like talking to a vegan. It's like you're still drugging yourself in a way. You know what I mean? Like, sure, it does tremendous stuff, but it's still a form of disassociating in a way, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It works. But it's like when you become obsessed with that medium and you're like telling everybody how to, like, what to do and all this other stuff, then, man, I just don't know. I like meditation because it centers you in reality instead of you having to, instead of you having to like disassociate. I meet a lot of people that are like addicted to breath work. They're kind of crazy. A bit crazy.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it just seems as a way to see the framework, as a way to see the whole structure. It seems like the use of these plants is kind of the only way to go, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? And I can definitely see what it really interested me as well, what you're saying earlier about how there's a sort of there's an element of DMT, or maybe there's an element of this within you anyway, at the point of death and the point of birth and so on. So it's sort of
archetypal. It's archetypal, like you talk about with Joseph Campbell's stuff. Like this is tied into the mythology of us as a human being.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We've just been lied to for centuries about having the ability to have our own sovereignty of our own spiritual path.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people are scared too. This hasn't been something that's been programmed into our society. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, do you think, well, I was reading actually before that Iboga specifically, they were saying that the Iboga shaman got a lot of heat from the Catholics back in the missionary days, presumably because I would imagine that the Catholic Church saw it as being something of a threat, probably to their.
Absolutely.
So
that's actually part of when you go through the ritual. There's actually some talk about that stuff.
Really,
the lineage, the lineage of the Bwiti, and because the fact of the matter is this: Iboga teaches you truth. Whether you're going to like it or not, you're going to learn the truth, like the realest shit. And they talk about that in the ceremonies as well, of like how truth is determined. And it's like, well, they do like, I don't want to say like double blind, triple blind stuff, but they do it so that people they'll ask one person from another tribe one question. They'll ask the same question to people, and like nobody has any interaction with one another. And they'll give them and have them go through an Iboga ceremony, have them ask the question. And if they all come back with the same question or the same answer, then they know it's true because there was no interaction. Right.
Yeah.
So they did that with a whole bunch of stuff, man. And it's just like, it's insane. And then, the Catholic Church tried to come in and make it illegal and all this other stuff. And then it was put into remission for some time, but it still survived. And that's what happens when people want to kind of have the stovepipe of truth. Like they want to just feed you a certain line. That's essentially what the church has become. It's become a fucking powerhouse of trying to control someone's spiritual sovereignty. You got to come through us in order to get the answers. And it's like, I don't think so, man. Like this is the ultimate level of sovereignty, I believe.
Exactly. Because these are ancient things, aren't they? This is going way beyond,
this predates Church. Fucking Christianity. Absolutely.
Well, listen, look, it's fascinating stuff. Thanks for coming on. I've got to I've got to
No worries.
head off in a minute actually because
I gotta go hit the gym anyway.
Exactly, but it's been really fascinating to talk through this stuff, and as always, I'd love to catch up again on some of these things and going into the spirituality stuff because it's really fascinating, and I don't see it really talked about that much in our sort of corner of the internet. So it's definitely something that I think is good to teach guys about and to let people know about.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
go on for hours. Honestly, I mean, I've had some very crazy situations happen on top of, I'd say it's helped me shape a lot of my mindset around a lot of different things.
Yeah. It's it's awesome stuff. So thanks ever so much for coming on. Just again, do you want to let people know where to find you and what you've got coming up?
Yeah, you know what? If you just want to find me, I think the best thing for you to do is just go to my YouTube channel, A God Amongst Men, and subscribe. And watch a video, hit the like button, then check out the description below. All my points of contacts are there, and all my courses and forums and books are all in there too. So just go do that. Makes life easier.
Awesome stuff. And as for me, obviously, if you can give us a like on this video, hit subscribe, hit notifications. You've got links on this channel to Renegade Dating Blueprint, which is my pack of 11 now books on dating, sexual marketplace, etc. And join my daily email list as well, because if I end up getting barred from every single platform on the planet, at least if you're on my daily email list, still be able to get that content out to you. So the links are all below in the description. But Corey, thanks ever so much. It's been awesome chatting to you again. And we will catch up again very soon.
Absolutely. Probably see you Saturday.
Indeed. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah,
all right. See you later, guys.
Yeah.